I'm Jack Kennedy, and we're here to bring you the latest in MMA.
Hey everybody, my name's Hunter Boss, and what the boss says goes.
What is up everyone, my name is Keelan McNamara, and you already know what time it is.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the MMA Island Podcast. I am Jack Kennedy alongside Keelan McNamara and Hunter Boss, and we're back at it again with another podcast. 276 was amazing, great card. The main event wasn't exactly all fireworks. However, card as a whole was fantastic. A lot of shocking moments, but let's get started with the news. Talking main event, Adesanya beat Cannonier, dominant decision. Hunter, what are your thoughts on this result for Izzy?
It was expected. It's what he said he was going to do. He said he was going to beat Cannonier, and he did it. There were some more he said he was going to do, in which he did not do. He did not really put on much of a show. The fight was pretty boring, and we're, as Israel Adesanya fans, and as we continue to watch Izzy, we're seeing that more and more of these fights are ending up like this. And honestly, his next fight against Alex Pereira, sorry, Jesus. It's probably going to look along the same thing if Izzy wants to win. So it's just the way Izzy fights. It's not the most exciting way to watch it now. It's like he's doing just the bare minimum in the octagon to get the win now. To me, it's like they'll have an exchange. Cannonier might throw 2 punches, so Izzy will throw 3. He's just doing like one more little thing than his opponent does every single match. And honestly, I don't like it as a fan. I'm a big fan of this sport, and I don't like watching my champion of the UFC middleweight division, who's been here and cleared out 1 through 5, kind of take the easy route in some of these opponents. So in his next performance, I want to see something big from him, or I might not continue buying pay-per-views from Israel Adesanya. I mean, it's getting crazy nowadays. It's expensive. We're paying around $80 to $90 per card, and just to watch him do that, the walkout was more entertaining than the actual fight. And that's when you know you have a problem. So it was a good fight card, terrible main event. Honestly, I would put it on par to, it wasn't as bad as it was, like watching it. It wasn't as bad as Rose Namajunas versus Carlo. As far as actually watching it, that was a really bad one to watch. But it felt just as bad because we're getting a lot of these, just lackluster performances from him. And I'm tired of it. So congrats to Izzy for winning, but put on a show next time.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I don't see where you can disagree with this. I really don't. The thing is, right, I have no problem with Israel Adesanya having the ego that he does. The guy's the middleweight champion of the world. You have your ego, you've got your ego. That's no problem. But the one thing that you cannot do, the one thing you categorically cannot do, is you cannot come out to the arena to the tune of The Undertaker, dressed as The Undertaker, with an urn with Jared Cannonier's name on it, and then get a decision. I'm sorry, you absolutely cannot do that. Not today, not tomorrow, not next week, not next month, not next year. You can't do it. If you want to go out and put on a show, put on a show, but do not come out to pro wrestling entrances and then do the bare minimum to win. I'm sorry, I'm with Hunter on this. I wish I could make some sort of counter argument, but I can't. I don't have anything. Credit to him for winning. At the end of the day, the main goal is to win. But the very, very, very closely second goal is to entertain. You're an entertainer, Izzy. And so far, you're an entertainer that hasn't been entertaining. It's just a fact. I don't really care what Sean Strickland criticized Izzy for in terms of his appearance and all that crap. That doesn't matter to me. It's not going to affect my life. But I agree with Hunter. I've heard from a lot of my people over there in America, when you're paying $80, $90 for a pay-per-view, Izzy, you've got a real problem because people aren't going to pay to watch you anymore. And quite frankly, your livelihood kind of depends on people wanting to watch you. It's the reason you have the money that you have now. But if it keeps going the way it is, it ain't going to be that way for long. We found that out with GSP when he was going through that that Patrick Cote, Thales Leites, Demian Maia phase. Anderson Silva had the same for some of his fights. You have to keep it fresh or suddenly you become rotten. And quite frankly, you're going out of date very, very quickly. So Israel Adesanya, professionally, I have nothing but the utmost of respect for him, of course. But if you're going to talk that amount of crap and act that way, you got to back it up or you're just going to be irrelevant.
Yeah, you guys said it perfectly. We're all on the same page here. I mean, it was a great he won. I mean, he did what he had to do to win, and that's kind of like Hunter. You put it like perfect. He's been doing the bare minimum to get the victory recently. Like minimal risk. You're really not going to get hurt. He really doesn't even get hit much in his fights. Keep the distance. Pop a jab, leg kick every now and again. Like it's really only like maybe 10 strikes per round, if that, for Adesanya. It's not very entertaining. And the other thing that makes this performance particularly upsetting is that he's fighting not Robert Whitaker. He's not fighting one of the main guys. He's fighting Jared Cannonier. And again, no disrespect to Jared Cannonier. He is a real opponent, and he's tough for anyone in that middleweight division. But he's fighting a guy that he clearly has a skill gap above. And he's fighting on the main event of International Fight Week, where the card up until that point had been nothing but ridiculous. I mean, even the co-main event, Volkanovski, and we'll talk about that in a second, shocking performance from him. Pereira, we'll talk about that a little later too. Just the whole card, except for the Sean O'Malley fight, was just amazing. It was just perfect. It's what an International Fight Week card should be: pure entertainment and excitement, and you're going for it. And Adesanya just didn't do that. It just was a lackluster performance for me. It really was. And again, the other thing is too, for how much he's talking, how much he's building up the fight, you get so hyped up, and then it's just like you're sitting there for 25 minutes watching something, waiting for something really entertaining to happen, and it just doesn't come. So, look, I mean, we're talking all this. Adesanya got a great win, right? He's still the champion. It was a great performance, but it's just, and he is a victim of his own success because we've seen what Adesanya is capable of. We've seen he's capable of knocking anyone out in this division. So it's just a matter of we want to see that again. We want to see that tenacity like inside the actual octagon instead of just outside of it, which is really all we're seeing is outside of the octagon. Israel Adesanya taking stuff, not really going all for inside the octagon again. I honestly think a good comparison just to close out this thing. I think Kamaru Usman is almost the polar opposite because Kamaru Usman started off his career where he's kind of, snoozeman, whatever, right? He's really not doing much. People don't want to watch him fight.
32%.
Well, now it's the opposite. Now he's knocking guys out. Now he's putting on entertaining performance. He's standing up on the feet. He's going for it. And it's very entertaining. Whenever you're that dominant, you want to find different ways to just step it up. And Anderson Silva obviously went through the lull period, 2 or 3 fights. But after that, he would continue and just after that, it was a knockout after knockout after knockout, crazy finish, whatever. So I am hoping for the future. Adesanya does turn back to the old, quote unquote, old Adesanya that we know. But for right now, I agree with you guys. It's just frustrating when us as fans are putting in that amount of money and it just keeps going up and up and up. And that's what we get in the main event. So I agree with you guys. Again, great win Adesanya, but we want a little bit more. All right. With that, let's go ahead and transition to the best of the best. And someone who did not have a lackluster performance was Alexander Volkanovski. Oh my goodness. Hunter, what are your thoughts on this performance from him?
He was one step ahead of Max Holloway the entire fight. I mean, if there was any debate on who the featherweight GOAT is, I mean, we're getting close to the point of closing the end of the debate. In my opinion, right now, Alexander Volkanovski is the greatest featherweight on the planet. He's beat who we all thought was the greatest featherweight on the planet, Jose Aldo, pretty emphatically. He then went on to beat Max Holloway 3 times in a row. Though the second one I get was close, but it's 3 times in a row, no matter how you see it now. So, yeah, he's the greatest of all time. His striking is beyond comparison right now in that division. Here's what I like to see now. I like to see, has the champion beat the best striker, the best grappler, and the best mixed martial artist in the division so far? I think he has. I think he's beaten the best grappler in Brian Ortega. He's beaten the best striker in Max Holloway. And he's beaten the best mixed martial artist in the Korean Zombie. So I think altogether, that makes for the greatest featherweight of all time right now. Volkanovski's undefeated. There's still a lot of room to improve, and still a lot of room to improve on your legacy at that. And he said he was going to be moving up to lightweight here pretty soon, which is going to be a really fun opportunity for him. So to see how these fights play out in the future, I can't wait. I'm still going to be a fan, even if Izzy keeps putting on these bad performances. At least we'll have Volkanovski to watch in the co-main event.
Yeah.
So, boom, good job, Volkanovski. I didn't think you were the GOAT before, but you've proven it now. I think you are the best of all time.
First of all, wow, what a performance. I mean, I was pretty confident in Volkanovski going into the fight, as you remember. I wasn't that confident. I thought it would be close. It's Max Holloway, up until then, the greatest featherweight there's arguably ever been. And he got dominated. He got dominated, and it did not look close for a split second of that fight. Alex Volkanovski, I mean, I take my hat off to you, because that was one of the best individual tactical performances I have ever seen. Outboxed a guy who has much more range than him, very brave, never took a defensive step back, was just always in the fight and always just a step ahead. He was absolutely sensational, and there is no other word that comes close to describing it. To answer Jack's question, is Volkanovski the greatest featherweight ever? Yes, he is. And the reason that he's the featherweight GOAT is that there's no argument now to why he isn't. Like Hunter said, dominantly beat Jose Aldo, beat Max Holloway. Of all people, Max Holloway 3 times. Was in real deep trouble against Brian Ortega, made it out of that. Knocked out the Korean Zombie. Nobody really does that, unless you're Yair Rodriguez, admittedly, but that was just a one in a billion throwaway. The point is that there's nothing left for Volkanovski to prove. Like Hunter said, and I really like how he framed this, he's beaten the best striker, he's beaten the best grappler, and he's beaten the best mix of those two, the best mixed martial artist. Alexander Volkanovski is the greatest featherweight of all time now, in my opinion. There's nothing more he can do to prove it. There's nothing more he should have to do to prove it. And here's a fun little fact for everybody here. If he ends up fighting Conor McGregor, and if he beats him, which I absolutely think he would beat him, Alexander Volkanovski will have beaten every featherweight champion to ever exist. That's Mount Rushmore territory, as far as I'm concerned. Alex Volkanovski. We're talking about Alex Volkanovski. Alex Volkanovski, you're the greatest featherweight ever, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a great opinion. I think you have to go with that at this point. I mean, this is also not just a Max Holloway that's in the latter stage of his career or anything. This is a Max Holloway that has just come off of dominating Calvin Kattar and complete another domination in Yair Rodriguez, if we're being honest. We gave Yair Rodriguez so much credit because he hung in there with Max Holloway for so long. And this is a guy, Max Holloway, who I really thought was going to put on a show against Volkanovski. I still pick Volk, obviously, but no one could have seen that coming. No one could have seen that coming. He was utter domination. I cannot remember the last time I've seen Max Holloway get dominated like that. Even Poirier did not dominate him as much as Volkanovski did. Max Holloway was truly a step behind in every single round, arguably for the first time in his career, especially at that moment. And that just is so much credit to who Alexander Volkanovski is as a fighter, but also who he has around him. He is truly one of the best teams in the world around him, some of the best coaches around him in the world. And that was just brilliant. It was perfect. I was sitting there shocked. I could not believe it, what was going on. I was like, okay, this is the round where Max Holloway is going to turn around. This is the round where Max Holloway is going to catch up, right? It didn't happen. It never happened. Volkanovski from start to finish dominated. And for that reason, you have to call him the GOAT. I think you do at 145. I think you do. Aldo, incredible, obviously, but then Max Holloway beat Aldo. Volkanovski's also already beaten Aldo. And then the way he did it to Holloway, he beat him 3 times. Again, the second one, I still think Holloway won, But the third one erases that, honestly, in itself, because the third one just proves who's the man. And Volkanovski proved he is the man at 145. And I am so excited to see him go up to 155. And I really kind of want Charles Oliveira to come out on top of all of the mess that is lightweight right now. Because, oh my gosh, a Charles Oliveira Alexander Volkanovski fight would be utterly ridiculous. And Keelan, a great point you mentioned earlier too about Conor McGregor. If for in some weird universe, which is what we're living in now, apparently, if Conor fights Volkanovski and Volkanovski beats Conor, which again I think he would beat Conor right now probably, then he's beat every single featherweight champion there's ever been in the UFC. That's insane. So look, greatest featherweight of all time, Volkanovski is one of those guys. There are two people in the UFC right now that I think are just scary good. And Volkanovski and Kamaru Usman are those people. They are scary good. How much they improve every single time. And right now, especially Volkanovski, this is on par with that. Surpass it. That Jorge Masvidal knockout from Kamaru Usman. He just dominated a guy who I didn't think could be dominated. And just credit to him. Greatest featherweight of all time. I'll go on record say it. I think most people are saying it right now, but just man, I am so impressed with Alexander Volkanovski. Yes, absolutely. Hats off to him. Okay. Well, there's one more fight to really talk about that was on this card. That was ridiculous. So let's go ahead and transition to the discussion of the week. And oh my goodness, I ate my words. I said I'd be happy to eat my words. We all ate our words, I guess. Alex Pereira. Oh my goodness. Hunter, take it away. What do you think? Is he the guy to dethrone Israel Adesanya? Just talk about his performance and that, I guess. Yeah.
Sure seems like it. I mean, look. Let's look at the facts here, Jack. Yeah. All right. Alex Pereira has beaten Izzy twice in kickboxing matches, right?
Yep.
Mixed martial arts. Do you think Israel Adesanya is going to go for a takedown anytime this fight? Because I sure as hell don't think so. I do not think there's no way. Because not only does Izzy not only want to win, he wants to prove he's the better kickboxer. He's got an ego. So there's no way in hell Israel Adesanya is going to shoot for a takedown. There's no way in hell he's gonna make this a mixed martial arts fight. This is a kickboxing match, folks, and you are in for a nice, saucy fucking trilogy match right here. I mean, they're not saying it's a trilogy because it's the first MMA fight, but it's a trilogy because we all know this is going to be a kickboxing fight. And I think the question before was is Alex Pereira the person to dethrone Izzy? I don't want to say yes, because we've seen Izzy beat all these people before. He's beat 1 through 5 now. But shit, it sure seems like Alex Pereira is the guy to beat Izzy right now. I mean, he's got the power. He has got some sneaky fucking power. He weighs 219 come fight day. That is heavyweight fight weight right there, guys. Come on. 185 for middleweight. That's what Izzy basically fights at, too. Come fight day, he doesn't really cut that much weight. He maybe weighs 188 max, right?
Yeah.
Fucking Alex Pereira is going to be 20 pounds above him. Maybe, no, he's going to be 30 pounds above him, right? Yeah. That's going to be an insane weight difference. And it's not like it's going to be like a chunky 30 pounds above him. He's going to be a muscular Brazilian 30 pounds above him, knockout power. That left hook is going to be crazy. To actually answer the question now, because I realize I've been beating around the bush. Yes, I think Alex Pereira can beat Israel Adesanya. If Izzy keeps fighting the way he's been fighting, I think Alex Pereira is going to take more chances than Izzy does, and it's going to work out better for him. I don't know if Izzy has the power to knock out Alex anymore. I don't even think he does. I don't know if he does. I don't know. It's 30 pounds more than him. Any shot landed could put anyone out, I think, but Alex Pereira is a beast. So we'll see, guys. I don't want to make my official prediction, but I do think Alex Pereira can be the man to beat Adesanya. And for the only reason, he's done it twice already. What say you he doesn't do a third time? I understand the first 2 fights, Izzy was winning both the fights, but until he wasn't. That's the thing. Yeah, sure. During the press conference, Izzy's like, yeah, if any of you guys actually watched the fight, I was winning the fight. Yeah, but I mean, Jorge Masvidal was winning the fight against Kamaru Usman too, until he wasn't and got knocked out clean, right? Come on, we gotta put it there. Alex Pereira can be the man to knock out Israel Adesanya in MMA.
Jesus Christ, this is such a sick storyline. Everybody thought I was crazy when I picked Alex Pereira for my draft.
Credit to you, man. Credit to you.
Everybody thought I was drunk, not just because it's a national stereotype, but they thought I was drunk because I picked him, and I picked him for this moment. I told you he would get a title shot by either the end of this year or the beginning of next year, and this is why. I'm not even bragging. I'm just saying this is why I thought it would. Oh my God, that knockout, first and foremost. Good Lord, that left hand is a sledgehammer attached to the man's forearm. That is just one of the most vicious knockouts I've seen in a long time. I mean, I'm not even going to talk too much about the fight because we've got to talk about this, but Sean Strickland, that was one of the stupidest game plans I've ever seen in my life. You do not try and walk down a kickboxer who can kickbox you, because that's what happens, Sean. You get knocked out, Sean, and you don't win, Sean. I mean, it is what it is. Sean's mental. Alex Pereira's a beast. We all know this. But on a much more interesting segue, onto the super fight at middleweight. We have got real heat here. We have got Israel Adesanya, the ego of egos, the man who holds the crown, but who's been humiliated twice in a not too different sport by Alex Pereira. And when Alex Pereira first joined the UFC, everybody kind of said semi-humorously that Pereira was the boogeyman that would come for Adesanya, the man who might slay the style bender. And that's very real now. Nobody's laughing about that anymore. No, we've all forgot about, the last performance where he was a little bit shaky against Bruno Silva. That's all distant history now. Alex Pereira's within striking range of this title fight. And do I think he could beat him? Yes, I do think he could beat him. And I think he could beat him for exactly the same reasons that my good colleague, Mr. Boss, just mentioned. Yes, this is MMA, but this is not going to be an MMA match. This is going to be a kickboxing match with MMA gloves on. That is the only difference here. That and the fact that we have a different environmental setting. We have an octagon instead of a ring. Those are the only two differences. Adesanya's not going to wrestle. Alex Pereira is definitely not going to wrestle. And my, oh my, do we have an exciting fight on our hands here. And I think there's a lot of different interesting dynamics going into this fight, which I'm assuming this is the next fight that's going to happen. And we'll obviously break it all down much, much more closer to the time. But, Pereira is in his head. He is absolutely in his head. And Adesanya might be very good at hiding it or denying it, but Alex Pereira lives in his head rent-free, because every time Adesanya hears his name, he gets rattled. And every time he gets rattled, he remembers being put in the canvas face down. And Alex Pereira could absolutely be the man who does it. Other factor, the weight. The weight is a big, big, big factor in this fight that I know will happen. This is exactly how Jan Blachowicz won. This is exact. I mean, Jan Blachowicz probably weighed nearly 220 in fight night when he fought Izzy as well. Alex Pereira carries 220 evidently really well. If there are clinches and if this gets up against the cage and elbows start getting thrown all around the place, that weight is going to be a real big difference. And Hunter, again, is absolutely correct. Alex Pereira is not like a chunky, wide 30 pounds heavier. He is lean, slim, muscular 30 pounds heavier. And muscle is obviously heavier than fat standard weight is. Alex Pereira could absolutely go out and do this. He could go out and nail him with the first shot that he throws. It's very, very possible. I'm not going to say too much because the fight hasn't even been confirmed yet. But to answer your question, Jack, could Alex Pereira beat Israel Adesanya? Yes, he absolutely could. And this is the fight Izzy needs. Izzy needs an X Factor fight. After all these boring fights, he needs someone who's going to take it to him. And Alex Pereira is going to do that, believe you me.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's just, you guys nailed it. First off, hats off, especially Keelan. I gotta say, I will accept the role as the number one Alex Pereira denier. I thought he was a fraud. I thought he shouldn't even be in the UFC. Honestly, he probably shouldn't be in the UFC right now based off his grappling ability. But oh my goodness, you were right. Credit to you. Should he have gotten the Sean Strickland shot? Absolutely not. But he won, and I'm just credit to the man. When I tell you I was shocked I had friends over to the house to watch the pay-per-view, right? It's the biggest pay-per-view of the year, all that. And I was hyping it up. I'm like, okay, this is Sean Strickland. I picked him by submission round 1 in my picks, and all of this. Pereira goes out there and knocks him out cold. I ran around my couch and was just like shocked. So Keelan, credit to you for way back when saying Pereira is going to be a title challenger. He's going to fight Izzy one day because I did not think that was ever going to happen. I am wrong, and that has to be the fight that they make next. Real quick before I talk about Pereira, Sean Strickland's game plan is the most Sean Strickland thing ever, but it was stupid. Just watching the fight, Pereira was picking him apart the entire time. Sean Strickland's walking forward like this. Pereira's just kind of touching him, figuring it out, right? He's kind of leg kicking him as Sean Strickland's coming forward, closing the distance. And finally, Pereira sits down on one. He's just kind of been touching him up for 2 minutes, like, okay, testing what Sean Strickland's going to do. Strickland really, you could tell, was already overwhelmed just by being touched because he wasn't really throwing anything. He wasn't landing anything, but he also wasn't throwing anything. All he was doing was walking forward, hands kind of low like this, and getting touched up. Finally, Pereira sits down on one with that left hook, which is also one of the most technically perfect left hooks I've ever seen land in the octagon. It was beautiful. Cracked him, and then there's not much you have to do after that. Just kind of 2 jabs, and Strickland's out cold. So beautiful. This guy honestly might be one of the best strikers in MMA. The Izzy Pereira fight might not only be the trilogy, but who's the best striker in MMA right now might be that fight as well. And talking about that fight, I agree with you. Adesanya's ego is way too big to do that. And it's also like, this is a trilogy. Hunter, you're absolutely right. This is a trilogy. And Adesanya is down 2-0 to Pereira in kickboxing. And now you have an opportunity to have kickboxing, but with 4-ounce gloves in an octagon with even more stakes around it, the UFC middleweight championship of the world on the line. It's ironic, and we're all hypocrites, but we were just talking about how we were going to think about buying Adesanya pay-per-views. We're buying this pay-per-view and we're selling it right now. Like, I'm excited for this, right? And it's because of Pereira. I'm excited. I saw that Strickland knockout, and Sean Strickland's a fun fighter and everything, but I got excited. I'm like, oh my goodness, Pereira. Keelan was right. I can't believe it. Pereira is the man. So I'm excited for this fight. Not just excited. This is one of the most exciting fights I'm looking forward to for the near future. And I hope it gets booked relatively soon. And I hope everything pulls together for it. But man, we're gonna have to do a lot of promotion for this because there's so many storylines going into it. And again, I didn't even answer the question. I'm just getting caught up. I'm getting caught up. Yes, I do think he is, or not necessarily, but he absolutely can do it. He absolutely can beat Israel Adesanya. And another thing I'm thinking, right? This also, I think if Pereira beats Adesanya, the middleweight division is wide open.
Ooh,
because
yeah.
I still stand by. I don't think Pereira it can wipe out the division like Adesanya did. I don't think he's near as well rounded as Israel Adesanya. I think he can be beat. I think the reason Adesanya might lose is because of the ego is the main reason of trying to kickbox Pereira. If Pereira beats Adesanya, they throw anyone on there. Like Whitaker would probably beat Pereira, if I'm being honest, and other stuff like that. That's okay. We're going down a rabbit hole here. I'm excited for the fight. It's amazing. Amazing win by Pereira. Overall, great card. And also, guys, great podcast. Thank you all so much for listening. As always, make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. You can listen to us everywhere, literally everywhere, including iTunes and Spotify. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at MMA.island and check out our website, MMAisland.net. Great podcast, guys. Thank you all so much for listening.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.